everyone. I am Professor Chong, Associate Professor of Management. I'm I will be your moderator today, and I joined KGI in 2011, and so I have had the pleasure of teaching Jonathan and Stephen. And Jonathan was in fact in my TMP, and he then successfully got into Amgen. He has very adventurous stories to share, especially for those who are international students. And Stephen himself, I'll leave it for him to disclose depending on whether it's comfortable. But he also have very adventurous story to share about how he overcame obstacle related to him personally, and achieve remarkable stuff. Yeah. All right. So with that, let me first, ask Jonathan and then Stephen. So Jonathan, I'd like you to first briefly introduce yourself, your background, and then your current role.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Jonathan Naab. I'm originally from Ghana, West Africa. I came to KGI in 2017, so graduated in 2019. Right now, I am a manager at Amgen. I work with a global partnership supply, where I manage partnerships with other biopharmaceutical companies. I recently started that role about a month ago. Previously, I used to work in clinical supply chain as a global planner. So yeah, with Amgen too. Yeah.
And then Stephen, um, your background.
I'll get a quick intro. So
Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
I grew up in sunny Los Angeles, and I love it here. I see no reason to leave, and it's fortunate for me that there's a few biopharmaceutical companies in this area. Not many. It's not one of the big three hubs, right? But there's a few. Anyway, let me rewind to the academic experience. I got a degree in microbiology, Cal Poly Pomona. I realized that I like science, but I'd rather uh, I like business as well. And so I sought out a healthcare MBA program. I found the MBS, and I was very fortunate and very productive during my 2 years in the MBS program. I interned at Gilead, and I ended up returning to the Gilead family after I graduated to Kite. I'm not sure about the knowledge of the major pharmaceutical companies with this group, since you might be incoming students, but Kite is a subsidiary of Gilead, one of the top five grossing companies, right? And what I'm doing now at Kite is doing a rotational program. It spans strategy and operations. You have manufacturing, MSAT. You have a supply chain as well. So I knew myself coming out of school to be someone with an exploratory mindset. It's important to be self-aware, I think, when it comes to navigating your early career. And I knew myself to go through school and say, hey, I like this class, that one, and that one as well. So I was lucky to find out that rotational programs did exist, and of course, to be admitted to one. So yeah.
Thank you. And I just forgot something for the audience. So the audience, the students, if you don't mind, can you please turn on your video? It is an opportunity for sort of a face-to-face kind of conversation with the alumni speakers. So don't miss that opportunity. All right. So and so coming back to Jonathan, and so it's sort of like right now like a three-way conversation, and so we want to make that fluid. And Jonathan and Stephen, feel free to interject as you wanted to. You also have the the outline, the questions that is sent to you previously, and so feel free to interject as required, um, as you like. Now, Jonathan, I want to ask you, like, what is the most favorite aspects? What are the things you like most about your job, and why? And then what are the most challenging part of your job? It might well be that the challenging part you also like them, and so it's fitting to ask them these two questions together.
So it'll be I'll probably speak a lot more on my previous role, the role that I left like just a month ago, clinical supply chain. So I mean, I really loved that role because like I played an integral role in getting like drugs to people who were really, really sick, like people who were on like their last leg of treatment or had no hope. So that like kind of like give me a lot of satisfaction. Uh, the challenging part of that role was that I mean, we worked a lot with other functions and other teams. And so, and sometimes some of those teams, we were even working with like external parties, and sometimes those people are not kind of aligned on timelines. And it makes it, and we are kind of dealing with sick people here, people who are really sick, who need drugs. So it makes it sometimes a little more challenging to get the drugs to them on time. So that was the challenging part. But I think, and it was I mean, it was also a little stressful. But honestly, I really liked what I was doing. The fact that we were just playing a part in helping people gave me a lot of like satisfaction, because for me, I come from like a country where healthcare access is very difficult for a lot of people. So to be able to work in a role like this and play a part to get drugs to people was like very fulfilling for me.
Remember the conversation that we had
Yes,
when
yes,
you
yes.
know we were trying to get you to Amgen, and mentioned at the time that how special you are as a KGI graduate, and that you absolutely should get to a top-notch company like Amgen, not for yourself, but as a future payback to your home country. Because at some point, we need you and people like you to rise up high enough to gain enough experience and capabilities in a company like Amgen to be able to bring that kind of uh, inclusion and equity in terms of healthcare to Africa, because we cannot have real healthcare sustainability without at the headquarters, thinking about this kind of global diversity of talents that people like you bring to. So thank you so much for being so determined to do that. I'm sure that that internal engine of yours, I think that propel you to deal with the challenges is that not just for yourself, but because there's a lot behind you that makes you want to do that well. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it, Professor.
Now coming back to Steven, um, what is the favorite aspects of the job, and what are the most challenging aspects? And again, the challenges is that because of your personality, the challenging stuff may also be your favorite aspect. So yeah, please go ahead.
First, I just want to say that I appreciate Jonathan's answer. I always appreciate when the mission is personal. I think those individuals tend to stand out in terms of performance, and also just being a pleasure to work with. They're mission oriented, right? And I would say that one of the main things, and there's a few that I like about Kite and Gilead, right? Number one being, it's probably the most obvious, the well-trodden ground of virology that Gilead has established itself, helping out with the HIV/AIDS pandemic, leading drugs like Trodelvy. I think their portfolio is made up of three major components: the virology, and now we're moving to oncology and inflammation. And this strategic, and I would go so far as to say audacious goal to cure cancer, that's incredible. And we're well on the way, right? We have leading therapeutics. We're looking at CAR T modalities. And it's exciting to be a part of that team for that reason. But also, as Dr. Chalk alluded to earlier, I am actually a survivor. So of course, the mission is personal in that way as well. I enjoy Kite because of the visibility. So it's just a little bit smaller than Gilead's and Amgen, and I like being able to present to and see VPs, executive directors on a regular basis. I don't take that for granted. And also, I can't complain about the location. We're at Santa Monica, about 2 minutes from the pier. In terms of what maybe challenges or opportunities, I think due to Kite's maturity, I mean, being developed sort of Pac-Man by Gilead in 2017, there are growing pains. I'm not going to say it's an immature company, but there is a maturation that continually takes place. And with that there's ambiguity, right? In terms of governance committees, in terms of how organizations are set up. Sometimes a lot of stuff doesn't make sense on paper or it's conflicting, but within that ambiguity, there are opportunities to create a name for yourself, to create clarity, concision, and show off your leadership that you're going to be exposed to when you graduate from KGI. I think another challenge, no, I think that's it. I really do love my job, and just the aspect of being in a rotation program is that you're continually learning. And not to get too deep here, but in grad school, I think my motivations were wrong. I think I wanted to be a manager right away. That six-figure, thing with the carrot was dangling in front of me. I don't feel for those metrics anymore. I feel for being in a place where I can grow and learn still like I'm a student, right? So for me, my career success is being in a place where my mind is expanding and I'm able to create value bidirectionally to the business and the patient. So
Wonderful. And Stephen, I think that I will probably share with you. I saw something about a Stanford commencement speaker speech, I think for 2019, where that person was talking about something like now what about it? And it talks about the sense of purpose as opposed to just angling for status. Now, coming back, I think that I want to save some of the questions about the work culture and about the company and those things for later, because I want to whet the appetite of the audience a little bit. I want to sort of come to questions like, why did you come to KGI? And I want to start with Jonathan, because Jonathan, I think you have a very interesting story for how did you end up in KGI. Yeah.
Okay, so back in my home country, I graduated with a degree in applied biology, and back in my country, after your first degree, you're supposed to like work for the nation, like serve the nation for a period of 1 year. And so in doing that, I worked with the Food and Drugs Authority back home. I was working in the microbiology lab, working on like drug and food samples. So that was where like my interest in like pharmaceuticals got peaked. But so after the 1 year program, I started looking out for like opportunities to work in the pharmaceutical industry, but they were very, very limited back home. So I tried going back to school, and my aim was purely academic, just to do like a master's, probably do a PhD in microbiology, something like that, until I came across KGI. And I sent an email, like I looked at the program, and I mean, they talked about collaboration with industry, like big industry players and stuff. It kind of like piqued my interest. I sent an email to admissions. Somebody contacted me, we set up a call, and they told me about the programs that they offer, how they help you to get an internship, and give you kind of like a leeway into the biotech industry. I found it very interesting. They also talked, I mean, I read a lot about cancer research. At that time, my dad was dealing with prostate cancer. So it kind of like was a little personal for me. So I followed up with KGI. I mean, I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised that somebody from admissions actually called me on the phone to talk to me about it. I'd never experienced that in my life before. So it kind of like said, man, these guys are serious. So I looked into the program, I applied, and I got in. The first year, I mean, I got in 2016, but I didn't get a visa to come to the US. So I had to like defer my admission for the following year. So I eventually joined the 2017 class. So yeah.
Yeah. It was every time I hear it, it's still an amazing story. I resonate so much with you, Jonathan. I lost my father to cancer when I was 14 years old. And so, I really resonate with a lot of what you said over our conversations over the years.
Yeah.
Um, Stephen, so why did you come to KGI?
I have always loved science at large. I'm not very good at physics. I like chemistry. I like objective truth. But academically, I didn't score very high. I couldn't be a physician if I wanted to. And obviously, well, blood, like a lot of people, makes me queasy. So I thought I have a past in science after I graduated my undergrad, and I want a future in business. So why not find a niche degree? There's a lot of little things, but one of the primary aspects was, I was applying to USC's MBA program. I think Dr. Chuck is familiar with that one, but I sort of wanted a niche degree. I thought there might be like a saturated market of MBAs. And my mom has been a nurse for 30 years, retired actually earlier this year. So I've been exposed to proper like patient care. Our family business, so we have 2 residential care facilities. So like, with like 12 patients. So I'm very familiar with community beneficence in this certain way with therapeutics and with proper care, right? And so this was quite a natural fit for me. The way I found out about KGI was less, let's say, it wasn't as glamorous as with Jonathan's. I didn't get a personal call. Someone actually told me about it when I was working at a restaurant. I've been a bartender for a while. I worked my way through undergrad and past Cal Poly. And I was literally shaking a tin, making like a pina colada or something. And someone says, hey, you'd be a good fit for the school I just graduated from. And he was in the Master of Science program, Joseph, and he told me about the MBS. And so he'd be a perfect fit. It makes sense. And the more I researched the program, I fell in love with it. And there was no turning back. So I literally stopped applying to USC and I just pursued KGI full force, and I had the interviews and I got in, and I was super happy to be admitted.
Great. Yeah. So just so that everyone know, I'm a Trojan, right? I got my PhD from USC, and so sometimes people do ask me about USC and yeah, but KGI is awesome. Yeah, I wouldn't say more than that. So Jonathan, so I think that you mentioned about a little bit about your trajectory, and how you were in the Ghana FDA and so on. And I was just wondering that can you maybe walk us through some of the decisions that you made as you went through your career path? So you have the graduate education in KGI, you have that internship, and you have that first career choice. And I still remember, our conversation after, at some point at one was at the In and Out, and then the other one was at the Italian restaurant in the village. And
Yeah.
so I remember that the independent contractor route was not
Yeah.
something that you were entirely happy with, but it was something that was good because when we were having lunch at In and Out, you were still very worried. And at the point, I was like, Jonathan, I think you will get into Amgen, right? Can you walk us through some decisions that you made? Yeah.
Okay. So when I got into in KGI, I think during the first year, I linked up with Professor Travis Schlappy. His lab, I wanted some practical lab experience to augment what I had learned in undergrad. So his lab was developing, they were trying to develop a UTI, point of care UTI. So I linked up with him, and he offered to kind of like train me in his lab. And that really helped me because it led to my internship. I got an internship with Siemens Foundation. They were working with a global health organization to develop an HIV diagnostic for infants in Africa and low resource areas. And I felt like this was like a good fit for me. I mean, I come from Africa. I understand the challenges that people have with seeking healthcare access. And also I could, bring some unique insights that people who work there may not probably have, since I have like lived the experience. So my got there, I really liked the opportunity. I worked hard after 3 months. I came back and I saw that I was part of the Amgen TMP with Professor Chuck for a clinical supply chain project. At that point, at that time, I did not know anything about clinical supply chain. It was kind of like very new to me. So, but Professor Chuck was really helpful. His guidance was very, very impactful in my life. I always say this. So I learned a lot. I actually liked it. And then after our project, I think our project was adjudged the best during our cohort year after that. I think we were 5 people on the team. 4 of us got into Amgen, right? The other person took a different route. She wanted to go into consulting. So
She went
she,
into consulting from
yeah,
Deloitte,
yes,
which actually service engine.
yes, yeah, exactly. So, so for me, I took the hard way. I first got into Amgen as like an independent contractor. Then after a while, I got like converted into a full-time employee. So I was in that role for like 2-3 years until I transitioned into my new role. I'm in commercial supply chain now, managing partnership supply with KKC in Japan and the Middle East. So yeah, it has not been like an easy way, but I think my career path has really like what I've been through in life has really like strengthened me, and KGI too honestly prepared me a lot for this journey in the US. Like a lot of the things when I first started at Amgen, a lot of the things that they were training us on, I was like, oh man, I already know this thing. Why are they training me on this thing? So it was like it was something that I had really learned at KGI and at Amgen. You go and they will now try to train you on it. So yeah, coming to KGI is like one of the best decisions that I made in my life, and actually joining Professor Chuck's like TMP2 was a blessing for me.
Oh, I was yeah, wouldn't say more than that. Stephen, same thing. Can you walk us through some of the decisions that you make through your career path? You, among many of my students, are very strategic minded. And so you look at opportunities, you look at where the ambiguity, provide space, to convert into, from disadvantage to advantage and all those things. So I think that I and the audience will love to hear your insights. We'll be able to learn a little bit of strategic behavior from you. Yeah.
Strategic behavior. Okay, well, I'm going to very much superfluous. I want to be students. Working in teams came quite unnaturally for me, and that's something KGI is based on. It's a foundational thing. Every class, term-long group projects. So I learned a lot about myself. I was able to understand how I operate as a leader and as part of a team. And I think that you should go towards opportunities where you can learn. You should go towards opportunities where you otherwise may feel uncomfortable. In undergrad, I rarely did any group projects. So that was one of the biggest like shocks for me. Like, I'm gonna have to learn how to play well in the sandbox. And this extends not only from academia, but to industry. That's what we keep doing after we graduate, right? So that's one thing. But from an overall perspective, I think grad school, the mindset you should have is that it's perfectly possible to defer your critical thinking and meet the goals of whatever program you're in, bioprocessing, MBS, and not be prepared for the real world. You have to take an active part of your development. And for me, that meant networking with people that have been out of the field for 5, 10, 20 years. And you'll be surprised, KGS Network is always ready to speak with you. But understanding what kind of certifications, for example, might I take part in independent research, and I actually did. with Dr. Chalk, and that was a really fun time. But a lot of money taken out. And you'll hear requirement to get an internship. That's in the sciences. You do a lot of things with that suggestion. I suggest you find out what company you'd like to work at, and don't do this whole shot approach. Take an active role. If you put in the time, you should be able to get one of your top 5 choices. So I think it's be present, learn to play with others, understand what you need to be successful at your career, and that all of that. I keep hearing this anecdote. It's a small industry. You have to be on good terms with people, and that's true. A lot of the people graduating class for about 14, 15 months now. A lot of career transitions are happening. In fact, I know that someone mass layoff over in industry, right? Mergers, and this person is looking for a career transition. So just because I work on so many teams and I know how he operates in that capacity, I've been referring him to Gilead. So yeah, the well with others, I think.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. And not sure if you are referring to Invitae, which had oh, okay. I know the guy you're talking about, which I think was also on one of my independent research on the digital health thing. And so yeah. All right. So good guy. So thank you so much, Stephen, because what you do is you save us a lot of time. You sort of walk through your decisions and then very quickly pivot to basically giving students and advice about on given based on your career experiences. So Jonathan, I'm going to pivot to you and ask you, given what you have experienced through your career, what advice would you give to a new student or potential applicant at KGI?
What advice? I feel. I mean, I think the key thing is to. I mean, if you're interested in working in the industry, like learn as much as you can about what the industry is about. Also try to be, let me say, be open to new opportunities in the industry. Like I was saying first, when I first started at KGI, my interest was like in med devices. But now I'm in supply chain. I started from clinical supply chain. I've now ended up in commercial supply chain. So I try to be adaptable, and also networking. I think that one is very key in this industry. This industry is big, but in a way it's also small. Everybody like knows everybody. So having a good network will really take you far in this industry. So yeah.
Thank you. Any closing thoughts from either of you before I open up for Q&A to the audience? Okay. All right. And so the audience, do you have any questions you might want to ask Jonathan or Stephen? Matthew, has a picture that actually says this. Maybe means that. I don't know. Anyone?
Oh yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead, Matthew.
So right now I'm a high school senior and I'm about to like start applying to colleges. I was kind of wondering, now that you guys are sort of like in the field or like in the industry, like how important is undergrad, and like like how much should I be like stressing right now for college apps?
So in terms of like, where do you want to go? Do you have an idea of the program that you'd like to get advanced to at KGI? Because by the time you're actually done with your undergrad, I think we'll have the medical school set up, Dr. Chuck, is that correct? Or is it already underway?
We have a school of medicine, but we don't have a MD program. But I think that Matthew is asking more generally. This anxiety about going to the right undergrad school so that you can position yourself for the right graduate professional school kind of thing. And I think Stephen, you probably, because this is the American setting, Stephen, you probably will be more well placed to explain. Yeah.
We have a lot of folks that come from very impressive schools. We have someone in my grade that came from like Yale, another one Princeton, another Berkeley, but most people are not coming from like what you consider target schools. So I wouldn't worry too much. Just perform academically at a very high level, take part in extracurriculars like a lot of us did to get admittance. By the time you're done with undergrad, it's going to be a more competitive application pool for sure. You can shine academically. That helps application. Yeah, that's fine. Is your question more around like performing academically or going to like a target, like a top 30 school? What is?
No, it was more so like based around whether like those target schools are really like, I guess like overhyped, like how important sort of going to those schools really are.
I'll defer to Jonathan if you have any take on that.
Not necessarily. I think it more or less it depends on the individual, right? How you make good your experience at college to be. So you just have to like just take the opportunity that you're in college, like perform as much as you can at college, and then like put your best foot forward whenever you have the opportunity to do something. I mean, I didn't attend like a target school in the US, but look at where I find myself now. So I think it's more about like the person, not really about like, I mean, the school helps, but it all depends on the person too.
I will add a little bit of my spin on, as a parent myself, right? And as an Asian parent, you hear a lot of people talk about tiger moms and those things. And my, my circle of friends, there are people who, worry about every tiny little bit about their kids' competitive advantage, the desire to win at the starting line, in fact. But I would say, and I base this based on I've read books by New York Times columnists, journalists, and I would say that where you go to is not as important as what you do with your education. So I think having that sense of purpose is important, because you could jump through all the hoops, and then you maybe in your 40s you reach a place where you have a certain level of status and may still feel very empty. So in life, we are all carbon-based life, right? We all are rejuvenating ourselves, our neurons firing at each other. Life is dynamic, and so you have to think about what is your sense of purpose, where is what do you want to do, and I think that can be a more powerful internal driver than the status of the school, what you're going to achieve, because there's a lot of people at my age in the 40s who have go after the status and may not know whether that is what they want. Does the three of us help answer your question, Matthew?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
All right. I see that Racy, I saw your video on, and so I just want to ask, do you have any questions you want to ask the speakers?
Not really, because I'm still a junior in high school, so I'm still finding, I know that I would like to work in the bio field, but I'm not really sure like what specifically I will like to do. So I'm still exploring. Yeah.
Got it. Jessica?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Michael?
Not at the moment either.
All right. So if that's the case, let me be asking Jonathan. So can you maybe briefly describe the workout and know a little bit of Amgen formal values and those things, because I've done, I did TMPs with a company that was spin off from Amgen, and then they were
Okay.
telling me about and then also with Amgen itself, and so they were telling me about their values. But I think that is good to hear from someone who have worked in Amgen for years. Can you tell me a little bit about the work culture in Amgen and what you like most about working in Amgen?
I think the work culture is like very inclusive. I remember when I first like started there, you know, because of my cultural upbringing and stuff, like I was always like quiet in meetings and stuff. I was not talking, but my manager would always pull me aside and ask me why would I talk in meetings, and I said, man, that's how back home, that's how we are. Like you don't really talk in meetings, you just listen to your boss talking. And he said, no, that was not why they brought me here, because they value you, they see you as a valuable member of the team. So you need to speak up, you need to see what's on your mind on the team. And that really spoke to me, that they value each and every person. I mean, the fact that they employ you means that they see something in you that you need to contribute to the team. And it's also very easy to get access to like the senior leadership. Uh, at first, when we used to work in person before the pandemic, a lot of the buildings had open seatings, which means nobody had an actual office or cubicle. Like you could just sit anywhere, and you could be sitting by a vice president, executive director, or like a director, and you could easily like strike up a conversation and talk to the person. Like they were very willing to go out of their way to kind of like mentor you, give you guidelines. If they see that you are like a new person in the industry. So it's you have a very welcoming environment. And one thing that they don't joke with too is like the work-life balance. They take it really seriously at Amgen. They allow us, the staff, to kind of like have our life beside the work that we do for them. So I mean, Amgen is really a great place to work with. I'm really fortunate that I found myself there.
There was also, I think, something called the Amgen shutdown, right?
Oh yes, yes,
Tell me
yeah.
about it. Tell everyone about it.
Yeah, so we have like two shutdowns, one in the summer and one during the winter, like the summer shutdown where Amgen closes for like a week, or I think a week. This year it was a week during the summer. They give everyone a paid time off. And this is different from like your vacation. And during the Christmas period to the winter period too, they give you like almost 2 weeks break for you to just go and have fun, like take time off work. So it's it's really enjoyable. Like yeah, you get to do something that does not have any impact on your actual same your PTO. So those are some of the things that I like working with this company.
Stephen, can you tell me about the work culture of your company? And I don't know whether you interact a lot with the Gilead headquarters, but I know that you do a lot with Keck here in Los Angeles. So please feel free to discuss the work culture, whether there's any differences between the Northern and Southern Cal, and what you like most about working at Gilead Sciences.
So that is my favorite thing, is the people, right? Because it's great to have it on your resume that you work in a big company, but your day-to-day interactions are with a small group of people. And you'll find that although there are subtle differences in between like different segments of the organization, we really do follow the culture. It's not just on the corporate webpage for fun, for appearances. Like it actually informs how we are. We're bold, we're empowered, we're authentic. We have creative control over our work. And overall, there's a lot of detail to sort of like facilitate that. It didn't happen by accident. I've heard it said during my internship at Gilead that Gilead is one of the Ivy Leagues of biopharmaceutical, but without some pretense that some companies are known to have. I mean, it's the corporate world can sometimes be cold, so there's no and companies that have a great reputation take great pride in that. And that's just that's just me. I have to give the real advice, right? And it's something that you'll find at Gilead and Kite together. And that comes from the top down. We are very good at diversity, equity, inclusion, all those initiatives. We're top tier at sustainability. But day to day, I just love the people. I really do. I mean, there's good leadership. There's capable teams that will have your back. Everyone is esteemable. That I think being competent is like the baseline to get in this industry. But all the things that you don't necessarily have to do, like just be generous and communicated with your team and trusting, all those things stand out to me. Because from a baseline, like biologic definition, like we are a communal species, we need each other. So why make those interactions unpleasant, right? So for me, that's what I value about my time at Gilead.
So speaking of that, Stephen, I want to ask you, many business roles in life sciences, as like yours, require broad knowledge, spanning multiple areas, and we see this as very clearly in cross-functional teams. So I wonder, do you have any recommendations for the audience here, be they high school, undergrad, or grad students, to become proficient and confident in engaging cross-functional teams?
I think you need to be curious. You need to be hungry, right? As one of my brothers told me, stay hungry. But that's secondary to having a vested interest in the industry. That's more than superficial. Like, this is not just a conduit to make a lot of money very quickly, but it's also, I mean, it is, but it's also, the mission should be personal, and that informs everything else. Like Dr. Chalk was answering Matt's question earlier. I mean, what excites you about it? I would encourage you all in high school to go. This really helped me the buzz. Disruptive technology, for example, Dr. Chalk, or T cell. Look it up, and you'll find that naturally, after a couple days, couple weeks, it'll be natural. It's exciting. There's a lot of exciting things happening in our industry right now. What might help you get there? Am I going to go to an MBA? Dr. Chuck, I'm not sure if I answered the question, but essentially, I think even if you have a plan, here's the tricky part: it needs to be amenable. You need to be able to flex, as we say in that industry, be agile and understand that it's okay to change your course. So that's all my advice at once.
Thank you. How about Jonathan? Leading leading cross-functional teams. What recommendations do you have for the audience to become proficient and confident in engaging cross-functional teams? And feel free to use your personal experience. I think, as I observed in you in TMP, and then later on, as you mentioned, in Amgen, I'm sure that you have a lot of personal examples that can inform the recommendations that you have for the audience here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think like I echo some of Stephen's sentiments on this. I think like you open yourself up to like new learning opportunities. Like for me, I mentioned previously, I did not know anything about supply chain because I come from like a science background, right? And so being placed on the TMP for clinical supply chain kind of like, I don't want to use the word forced, but for lack of a better word, like kind of forced me to learn about supply chain in general. And also, I think one thing that really helped me was, I don't know about this summer program, but KGI really emphasizes the need to work in teams. Like I mean, a lot of the classes we work in teams. So, and I mean, that has really helped, because prior to that, during my undergrad team, I hardly worked in any team. So that really prepared me for the roles that I've been in throughout my career path right now. Right now I did, like in my current role, I did a lot with legal, with accounting, with finance, with quality. So you have to be, and you have to bring all these kind of groups together to be able to, and you also have to know how to like manage people, like how to manage partnerships, how to work collaboratively with other people, and how to like kind of like represent your company to other external parties that you'll be working with. And this happened because I opened myself to like learning new opportunities, taking myself out of like certain comfort zones that I had placed myself in. I was forced to like come out of those areas to be able to like uh, succeed in my previous and current role.
Excellent. Thank you. Sort of what Jonathan, recommendations. I think that stuff that other alumni have told us about, and we have over time incorporate that into the Masters of Business and Science program. So much of what we do is teamwork, case-based discussion, consulting project that we bring in from industry, which really help our students become competitive in this type of high technology, multinational company settings, which, I think high salary is just a side effect of that. I think a more important thing is that the work is interesting, and it very often allow one to connect to their personal mission in life, to have that sense of purpose, and being high intensive knowledge workplace, to be able to sustain that individual level curiosity, which one will need, as you get into your 30s, 40s, or and 50s, because we humans thrive on novel knowledge, new experiences as a way to grow, for the neurons to make new connections and keep firing at each other. So that is sort of my closing thought on that. And Jonathan and Stephen, do you have any closing thoughts?
Closing thought would be, you can reach out to us if you have lingering questions, if you're not comfortable sharing in front of the group, but continue to push yourself, ask yourself the tough questions. Feel free to, one of the merits of LinkedIn, as I recommended you all make one if you don't have one already, is that you can reach out to professionals, and if they have time, they might actually speak with you. I'll be the first to say that I'm willing to speak with you. And I could probably estimate the same for Jonathan, but if you have a purpose in life, the success will be a byproduct. So really think about what you want to do at this stage. A lot of you are a little bit younger, but think about where you want to go, what's going to be the conduit to your success. But it all begins with like, what is your motivation? Like, what excites you? What do you get up in the morning? Do you know what I mean? Like, ask yourself those introspective questions.
I totally echo what Stephen said about, having coffee chats with people from industry. And I actually remember, Jonathan, right, when you were in your second year, you were asking me about finding jobs and careers, and I actually recommended the book Designing Your Life, which is from the Stanford D School, right?
Yeah.
Did you have a chance to end up reading it?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And I don't know if you like knew this before, but like before KGI, I had like very poor networking skills. Like it was virtually non-existent. And I mean, KGI really helped me to improve upon that. And so, I mean, that would be my conclusion. Like I would ask you that you make use of the opportunity that you have at KGI right now. I mean, if you're considering coming to KGI, I'm sounding more like a marketing person for KGI right now, but but it was one of like the best decisions I ever took, and so I think it's a really good decision. Like Steven said, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I had a lot of people helping me during my graduate school days, like people who went out of their way to speak to me and kind of like mentor me. And so I kind of like my way of also giving back. I'm always like available to kind of like talk to people who may need advice based on my experiences. So yeah, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn or any other medium that you may find, and I'll be willing to speak to you.
Okay, all right. So we are now to the end of the speaker talk today. I'll be sticking around in case anyone want to ask me questions. And for the rest, I wish you a good weekend ahead. And
Thank you.
Johnny, thank you so much for hosting.
Thank you guys, everybody.
right.
Thank you, Jonathan and Stephen and Dr. Chalk. Have a wonderful weekend. I will stop the recording, but you guys stick around in case there's any questions. And thanks again. What a great topic.
All right. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.